Me okay?
Yeah, you're great.
Yes, sir. Welcome, everyone, to another episode of the Virginians for Sports podcast. If you are watching us right now, thank you. You found us on our YouTube channel. We're also on Facebook, Instagram, X, and TikTok at VIFS for Sports. And don't be afraid to hit subscribe on that YouTube channel. I promise you it doesn't cost you any money. And when you do it, you'll get a lot more content from us, which I don't know, may or may not be a good thing. We'll see. But please do that. That helps us get bigger and better so we can have guests like tonight.
Yeah, the subscribe thing doesn't cost money. It's for our 50-plus crowd. But everybody under 50, I probably already knew that you can subscribe without paying any money. Chris Hughes, the Patrick Henry varsity softball coach, is with us. Welcome to Virginians for Sports, Chris.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
All right, cool. So how long have you been coaching at PH?
Yeah, so I just finished my second year at PH. Took over a couple years ago, kind of late, late in the game. The previous coach, Coach LeSturgeon, had stepped down kind of later in the year. And come January, they were looking for a coach a couple years ago. And, it didn't seem like anyone was kind of stepping up. So my daughter was getting ready to be a freshman at that time. And I said, well, that's a great way to spend time with her and to help some other people out. So here I am.
Yeah, nice. How would you describe your season, this past season?
It was a strange season, season unlike anything I've ever had as a coach. And it was strange in the fact that we dealt with a lot of injuries, which kind of set us back a lot. So we had, my daughter kind of was banged up throughout the year. As a freshman, she helped us out a lot in the circle as a pitcher. She was an all-region player. And then our normal third baseman, Anna Niedermeyer, she ended up with a rotator cuff injury, so she could only hit for most of the season. And then halfway through, our other corner, Hannah Six, she dislocated her shoulder and tore a labrum making a diving play at third. So you take three really good ball players out of the mix. And actually all three of them were all region, second team the year before that. So, that kind of put us back a little bit from where we thought we would be. But, it gave a lot of other girls opportunities to step up. We did, winding down the season, we won 8 out of our last 10 games, including beating Atlee at home, which was a big win for us. And, we kind of limped into the playoffs as an 8 seed, ended up losing in the first round of Caroline. But, we got a lot to look forward to. We got a lot of folks back and a lot of youngsters coming up, with a lot of talent. So future's bright at PH softball.
It sounds like it. So what is your background in coaching? You said one of the craziest seasons you've had as a coach. What's your background in coaching and how did it become softball?
Yeah. So I've always been so I have a daughter and I also have twin boys that play baseball. So I've always been involved in the baseball softball mix. Actually, my wife kind of got me into it. My wife was a college softball player at Coker College in Hartsville. So early on, she kind of coached my daughter and, she went through rec ball and started to travel when she was young at, I think 9 years old or something. And she was always coaching. I was helping her. And then I was kind of on the baseball side, helping the boys, coaching them, and kind of moved up through the ranks with some, pretty talented kind of high level travel baseball and softball between all three of the kids. And so she really had some things, that occupied her time and she couldn't really jump on as the softball coach. So I said I'd jump in with both feet and take it on. So mostly, a lot of rec and high level travel kind of led to this. So.
Yeah. So by the time these girls get to high school and they make the varsity team, they've been through a lot of softball, but they're also during that calendar year, however you want to think about that 12-month period when it starts, they are being influenced by not just the varsity high school coach and your staff. They're being influenced by travel coaches, obviously their parents. Maybe they have a specialty coach. They go to a pitching guy or gal. How do you interact as a high school varsity coach with that ecosystem typically?
Yeah, it's good. It's good to get feedback from certain players and how they react to certain ways of being coached. It's a different landscape nowadays. You really have to figure out the best way to coach a kid. So some kids react better to the harder coaching. Some kids react better to kind of a softer approach. Some are more hands-on. Some are more hands-off. So interacting with the coaches is good for me. I'm fortunate enough to have a lot of great instructors around. So I talk a lot with Cam Byers, who owns the Batter's Box in Mechanicsville. He's a high-level coach. Rick Pauly, who's a popular pitching coach around, interact with him a lot. And then I know several of the local travel coaches. So it's great. And I always tell the girls, if you have a hitting lesson, by all means, go to your hitting lesson. If you got to duck out of practice early or whatever, if you have a pitching lesson, like go perfect your craft, because, I have to coach a lot of players all at once, and they can kind of go be specific on what they're working on. It's only going to help us down the road. So it's good. It's a great community, the softball community here in the Richmond area.
Cool. So, Coach, one of the things that, and we've been lucky enough to have Ava Lester, Marley Gaskell, Lily Parrish, really, really strong pitchers in this area who have already committed to go to D1 schools. I know Marley's got one more. No, Marley
has another year.
She's got another year. Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. So you see, what is your role in, or at least what do you feel like your role is in helping them get to that next level as their high school coach?
Yeah. I feel like my role personally is just to support them in whatever way that I can. At the high school level, you don't get a ton of coaches coming to watch athletes. Most of their recruiting is done out on the travel. Nowadays showcase softball is the big thing. You go to these showcases and the backstop's full of coaches back there, taking notes and looking for players. And, but I'm happy to be a liaison between the players and, trying to get there. I've tried to establish some relationships with some of the, the local ODAC schools and some other schools here in the state. We have been fortunate enough. We just had Edie Jennings graduated. She's going to Randolph next year. So her coach came to a couple games. We've talked about some other players with her. I've talked to Coach Profit a little bit over at Randolph-Macon. So it's not huge in the fact that, high school coaches really don't get you to the next level, but, we're an important link in that, we can definitely fill in the spaces if we need to. So if that makes any sense.
It does make sense. So you mentioned a good network, a good community in the Richmond area. Chesterfield has some good high school teams, but there's something different going on in Hanover County across the 4 high schools. I don't know, you go back 10, 15 years, there's been a lot of really good softball teams out of Hanover County. Can you explain that?
Yeah, I think a lot of it has to do with, and again, you go back to the travel landscape. In Hanover, they've always had the Hornets organization. They're close to the Unity organization, travel organizations, and they've always, kind of played at a higher level and had higher level coaches. So obviously those players are going to be higher caliber players. So I think, that travel landscape has definitely kind of elevated the game, so to speak. Definitely in the Hanover County, Richmond area. There's also, we have some pretty vital rec leagues going on, Atlee Little League, you've got Rockville Youth Softball, you got Ashland Little League, Mechanicsville Little League. So some of those youth programs, as big as they've been, and I think they're getting even bigger. Like I know this past year, Rockville, I think they had more girls softball teams than they've ever had. So I think between the youth leagues getting more popular, the sport getting more popular in and of itself, and then obviously the travel. But yes, Hanover County is definitely a hotbed for softball.
Yeah.
So I'm going to ask you a question about, I guess, a finer point of the game of softball. So, okay. And I know you said your wife played. So I would love to know, how has she helped you kind of get in tune with, because these pitchers are amazing. what they can do on the mound. And I know it's a science to doing it. Are you calling the games? And if you are, how is that? You know, how have you developed yourself to be able to do that? And has your wife helped? Maybe she hasn't. I'm not sure. Yeah, I'd love to know.
So yeah, she's definitely been an important part. So my wife was a catcher, so she obviously knows pitchers well and how to work batters, and she's been around a long time, had a lot of good experience. And so she definitely started the foundation. You know, when she was coaching, we you know, I was helping her some, and you know, we definitely have learned along the way. With again, Rick Pauly, the pitching coach, he's helped me a little bit. Cam Byers has helped me because I know he's one of the primary pitch callers on his travel team, which is a national travel team. They're really good. But then also I'm fortunate enough, you know, my assistant coach is Raleigh Dahl, who was a very good pitcher at Patrick Henry for a number of years recently. And so we're sitting there in the dugout. I do call most of the game, but we're sitting there in the dugout a lot of times, you know, talking about what worked last time, how we want to work this batter, you know, what we've learned from playing them in a previous game or that kind of thing. And then also we're trying to work with our catchers a lot. So our catchers are very smart about, hey, this girl's way off the plate, let's bang her outside. Or, you know, this girl swings really flat, let's throw a rise ball. So, you know, between everyone, we think we come up with a pretty solid plan. We just have to get our pitchers to execute it.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's always a big part of a young person's life when they graduate high school, and it really starts a new chapter, whether they go to work, they go to college, or go maybe join the military, whatever that thing is. Who turned the page off of your team? Who just graduated off the team? Tell me about each of those kids.
Yeah, so I think I mentioned before, Edie Jennings just graduated. She's going to Randolph to play on a softball scholarship. I think she's going into physical therapy. So, you know, she'll be successful. Edie's a leader. She's very outgoing. She's going to do well in whatever she chooses to do in life. I had Lola Bradley. She was our second baseman primarily. She just graduated. I think Lola's going to UVA. Not exactly sure what she's studying, but, you know, she's a smart girl. She was always top of the class. I had Kellen Stack. She's going to Appalachian State, you know, again, just studying. And then I had Chloe Sternman graduate, and another, you know, great kid, great personality. I think she's doing local community college for now. So we're losing the 4 seniors. And again, you know, we got a lot coming back next year. So looking forward to it.
So you mentioned, I think, Coach, earlier that you have some exciting prospects coming up. And I guess that's coming from middle school, coming from Liberty. Anybody that's really got you fired up?
Yeah. You know, really, gosh, really everybody has you fired up, you know, because if you look at what Liberty's done the last 3 years, they haven't lost a game. They're 30-0 in the last 3 seasons.
Wow.
So yeah, that's pretty impressive. So any high school coach looking at that middle school coming up, you know, obviously that's going to make them excited. You know, I mentioned the injuries earlier, and that allowed actually a couple JV players at the time to come up, and they got some valuable varsity time. I got Brooklyn Parrish and Maddie Huckstep. They both came up and got some time on varsity and performed really well. But yeah, I mean, you just look out across the, you know, the next 2, 3, 4 classes coming through, and you know, hopefully it's good things coming for Patrick Henry.
Hey, Chris, hold on. 30-0 the last 3 years. So your daughter was part of the first 10-0 season.
Correct.
She was in 8th grade.
Correct.
And then you've got kids that are in 9th grade now. They were part of 2 undefeated teams.
Correct.
Maybe some kids are involved in all 3 undefeated seasons.
Yes.
So that means y'all beat the other 3 middle schools in Hanover County every single time.
Correct. Yes.
So, Chris,
there were some battles. I mean, there were some close games. There were some not close games. But yeah, we've kind of dominated the county the last 3 years. So that's exciting.
Chris, I don't want to put any pressure on you, but if they go 30-0 in middle school,
I got big shoes to fill. I got a lot to live up to.
They set that bar really high.
They certainly did. Yes.
I love
yes,
it.
they certainly did. But they've been fortunate, if you look over the past few years, Hanover's been pretty pitcher dominant. And Atlee's had some great pitchers, and it seems to be the thing that got Liberty through the last 3 seasons is pitching. They've got some really good pitchers, so hopefully that they keep growing and evolving, and they're going to be locked down for us in a few years.
Yeah, I don't want to offend anybody out there, but there are like ridiculously good pitchers, and then there's some schools that don't have great pitchers.
Sure.
It's night and day sort of thing. I can't imagine being that dominant as a 7th or 8th grader though in middle school, but it sounds like there are some dominant kids at that age.
Yeah, they're kids nowadays. I mean, again, the landscape has completely changed. Kids are specializing a lot earlier. Than they did probably 8 or 10 years ago. And, you've got 7th and 8th graders coming in, and they're throwing, high 50s, low 60s with spin and movement and learning all these different pitches. And, they can be really dominant at that level. And then hopefully they keep growing and, only get better as the next few years go on.
So, and I'm not going to mention the school because we're all about positivity here, but I noticed a huge gap between the starter at this specific school and whoever else was going to come in and pitch. And that starter got injured. And I saw who was coming in next. And it made me, I guess my question is, do you make sure that you have some depth in pitching? And I guess when they're coming up, they either pitch or they don't, maybe. I don't know if you can, I guess you can teach them at that point, but how do you manage that?
I think a lot of it is luck, getting kids that want to pitch coming up through, and fortunately we've got some of those coming up through, and other schools just don't. Us specifically, yes, I mean, high school softball is about pitching. Quite honestly, if you got pitchers, you're going to do really well. If you don't, you're probably going to struggle. So for us specifically, I prefer to have a staff. I know some of those power pitchers out there this year, like Lily and Madeline Johnson, and some in Marley, and those kids are horses and they can handle it. We don't have that kind, at least not yet. So if we can handle it by staff, if we have 2 or 3 arms, especially this year, Morgan went down kind of early and couldn't pitch anymore in the season, and then we had 2 arms behind her. And actually, I mentioned Lola earlier. Like, she even ended up coming in and throwing some innings. She hadn't pitched in 2 years, but she ended up doing really well coming in and helping us out. So yes, I like to develop a staff if possible, and if all things go how we think they will in the future, we're going to have a pretty good staff. Some pitchers just work better against certain teams and certain batters, and give them certain looks, and we're fortunate we've got 2 lefties, and next year we should have 2 righties and 2 lefties, and they should all just complement each other really well.
Yeah, that's great. Go ahead, Gavin.
Hey, Paul, real quick. So, Coach, it feels like I think all of us would love, if we were a head coach, to have a Lily Parrish that I'm giving the ball to that pitcher every single game. They're probably going to go the whole game, and I don't have to worry about it. But if you don't have that pitcher, it almost seems like it's more, I don't want to say the word fun, but for you to have to be strategic, right? You have to figure out how to get. I mean, is that kind of something that
it's definitely a challenge, yes, and it's definitely something that as a coach, it makes you work a little bit harder. I mean, I've spent many nights up, tracking pitches about how we work certain batters, in a previous game, or trying to watch some film on Game Changer, or going to a game and watching someone, and it's just. For us, yes. If you don't have that dominant pitcher that is going to go out there and get you 14 strikeouts every night, you do have to work people a little different. And also, you have to work on certain other aspects of the game. Like, we have to be really solid on defense because we know they're going to put the ball in play. We got to field it. We got to make plays. And we got to hit. We got to score some runs. So when your pitch is not dominant, you have to figure out other ways, to win. And I'm not saying that our pitchers aren't great. Like, they kept us in games all year long, did a phenomenal job. But again, they're just not the power pitchers like we've seen at some of the other schools.
Yeah.
Chris, I'm guessing you played sports growing up. I think you may have told me that in the previous conversation. What sports did you play coming up?
Yeah, I was fortunate enough. I played football, basketball, baseball, and ran a little track also all the way through high school. So my body's paying for it right now. So
well, you're saying running track. Were you a speed guy?
I was. Yep. 100, 200.
Man,
those were my events.
That was the one thing that I seem to be lacking coming up. The main reason I asked that question, though, is I wanted you to remind me that you played baseball. So now that you're coaching softball, what are the big differences between the two sports?
Softball definitely, it's a faster pace, like it's more energetic. It seems like every single pitch something's happening, like it's just complete. Sometimes it's chaos and sometimes it's just more fast paced. It's just fun, energetic. The girls get into it a little bit more than baseball, I would say. The fans probably get into it a little bit more, unless you're in one of those kind of county rival games. But, I love baseball. My boys are playing baseball now. They're, they'll be freshmen at Patrick Henry next year. So they were on the Liberty baseball team this year, did really well. But yeah, the biggest difference is softball is just so much faster. And I think, sometimes there's those slow moments in baseball. You can kind of get lost a little bit, but in softball, like you can't close your eyes for a second. You're going to miss something, especially as fast as it's getting now. The girls are just faster, stronger, just better, and just crazy athletes. You go around, my daughter plays travel too, and you go around some of these tournaments and just look at some of the crazy athletes that are out there. It's unreal.
Is it faster mainly because the bases are closer together and the pitcher's mound is closer?
I think so. And the pitchers move at a faster pace. There's a lot more going on with girls trying to take extra bases, stealing bases, catchers throwing here and there. It is played at a closer bases, closer mound, and everything. So everything just seems to speed up. And but yeah, it's organized chaos for sure.
So, Coach, let's put a ribbon on the 2023-24 season. I guess it was 2024 season. What was your proudest moment of the season?
Oh wow. Well, let's see. I really just finishing it the way that we did. Like I said, we came down the stretch, and I will say that we play one of the tougher schedules around. We have those flex games. Obviously we play the county games and we play each other twice, so those are always knockdown, drag out fights. But then our flex games, our out of county games, we're typically playing 5 and 6A schools that are perennial playoff people, like the Deep Runs, the Godwins, the Glen Allens. This year we even played Dinwiddie. So just finishing the way that we did, we started off a little slow. Like I said, had some injuries. We could have limped in and took our 12 seed and kind of went home. But, the girls really stepped up. Like I said, we had some girls step up and brought some girls up to get some experience. And they really performed at a high level. We won 8 out of our last 10 games. Like I said, ended up getting an 8 seed for the playoffs and hosting a playoff game, which, if you'd asked me halfway through the season that was going to happen, I'd have been like, no, you're crazy. So that's my proudest moment, just how we finished. We played our worst game at our worst possible time, that playoff game that we lost. We all wish that we could have gone back and did that a little differently, but, at the end of the day, they finished strong, and that's all you can really ask,
No, that's cool.
Yeah, I mean, you can control effort. You can't control the outcome, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, have you ever taken batting practice against your pitchers?
I've never actually taken batting practice. I've stood in and watched, so because I like to see, kind of the spin and the movement they're getting, and if they're hitting the spots that we want them to hit. But never actually swung off of them. But I've definitely stood there and ducked a few times and really said, wow, this could be tough.
Yeah. So imagine you're 18 years old, you were playing baseball and you were a senior in high school, and remember back to what that was like and how hard it was to hit a pitcher that threw pretty hard, could place the ball well, and maybe had 2 or 3 pitches. And then compare that to a softball pitcher who's closer, and she has not 2 or 3 pitches, but she has maybe 6 or 7 pitches.
Yeah.
Which do you think might be harder as an 18-year-old?
Oh my gosh, hitting a softball for sure. And I will say if a softball pitcher has a good rise ball, a baseball player won't touch her.
Yeah.
It's flat out. If she has a really good rise ball, a baseball player will struggle to hit her. It's one of the hardest pitches to hit. So if you face girls, and that's what made Lily so challenging. Like Lily has, and she throws her rise ball at several levels. Like she can throw a low rise, a mid rise, and a high rise. And if you can spot that and get the ball moving up versus left, right, or down, it's a whole nother level to try and hit something like that. So softball for sure.
Yeah, I was at a get together one Saturday night, and one of my buddies, his daughter is actually, I think, an 8th grader at Liberty. She's been part of those undefeated teams. I'll tell you the name after we record. And
Okay.
He said Rick Pauly's daughter, who just, I think, retired her professional career.
Correct. Yeah.
She was pitching to him like at 60% speed, but she threw a rise ball. And he said, I mean, he played baseball through high school. He knows how to catch. He said it rose so much, and it was moving pretty fast, even at 60%, that he totally whiffed just trying to catch the ball.
Yeah.
Imagine trying to hit that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's a different mindset, and we actually practice it some, and we try and get the girls swinging on a different plane for it, and sometimes they're successful, sometimes they're not, but high school you don't see a ton of it, but when you do and it's good, like it's really tough, and that's the teams that you see progress through the playoffs and end up in the state tournament or whatever. Typically their pitchers are pretty locked down and they've got some kind of up pitch and a lot of good movement, Yeah.
Well, Coach, we asked Haley Butler, she was on. We asked Lily. We said, hey, if you pitched against one of the best baseball players at your school, how many balls out of 10 would he put in play? And I think the answer was 1, 2, or 3 with everyone we asked. Just put in play, not hit a base hit, not a line drive, just put in play. So what I would do is I encourage you. Obviously, you do what you want, but I encourage you to get some of your baseball players over there next season and see if they can hit the girls, because that would be an interesting thing for both sides, I would imagine. I mean,
I'd have to get Coach Hart's permission for that, but I would definitely be all for that. And my daughter and one of my sons, they're both left-handed. They both pitch a little bit. So they have this bet before they graduate high school. He's going to bat off of her and she's going to bat off of him, and they're going to see who wins.
That's awesome.
Well, I don't know Sammy that well. Let me say it this way. I know who Sammy is. Sammy probably doesn't remember me, but we grew up in the area together. I might be able to set that game up, Chris.
There you go. Yeah. I'd be all for it. Like I said, the girls are pretty tough. But we'd have to make sure that he was on board for it.
I don't know that 17-year-old boys' egos can handle striking out.
I know there's some videos out there. If you go on, it looks like a boys' baseball team has challenged a softball pitcher, and they set them down pretty easily.
It's a totally different game.
You would think it's easy. It's a bigger ball. You'd think it'd be easier, but it's not.
No.
Well, the rise action that you described, like with Lily having 3 different levels, there's nothing like that in baseball. There are some pitchers that have a little bit of rise to the ball, but not enough to make you look like a fool.
No. Yeah, not like a true rise ball pitcher in softball. I mean, it's like you said, it's hard to catch. There are times, when my daughter does lessons at Rick's and I catch her, there are times I find myself, whiffing at a ball or it tipping off my glove and it jumping more than I thought it would or something. So
yeah, it's wild.
I love it.
All right, Kevin, you want to ask him your cereal question? You love this question.
Well, I mean, it's not a standalone question, but I can ask it. I mean, so what we've been doing we did it with all of our high school players. We did it with the 4 college pitchers that we had on a couple of weeks ago. We do quick hitters, like rapid fire questions. And one of the questions I ask is, if you were a cereal, what cereal would you be?
Oh, okay. I would probably be Lucky Charms. It's got a little bit of everything in it, and hopefully I'm we'll get lucky this year.
I like that. I like that a lot. All right, what are you most excited about for next season, Chris?
I'm just excited to, see where the program goes. We've tried to establish a culture here in the last couple of years, Riley and I, we've invested a lot into the program. We've made some upgrades to the field, made it look better. So I'm just kind of overall excited to see where the program goes. I hope we can stay healthy and perform, at the level we should. Honestly, if we were healthy this year, we probably would have finished a little bit higher, won a few more games. But between what we have coming back and like we said, some of those youngsters coming up, if we can figure out how to gel all that together, we ought to be pretty successful. So I'm definitely looking forward to that.
Well, most of my friends graduated from Patrick Henry. My kids went to Hanover, so I'm rooting for Patrick Henry and Hanover, and I would love to see Atlee and Mechanicsville lose all their games. No, that's not. They're only teenagers. I shouldn't say things.
That's correct. Yeah. Well, once we lose, I'm always pulling for the other county schools. So, but when we're playing each other, it's there's no love lost. But I enjoy the other coaches in the county. They're great guys. We had a good season. Enjoyed talking to them, learning some things from them. So, like you said, softball in Hanover County is really, really strong. And, a lot of folks don't actually realize how strong it is. But when we play each other twice a year and, beat up on each other throughout the season, it makes for a rough season sometimes.
Well, but it makes your team better too, right? If you were playing a bunch of powder puffs, your team wouldn't be as good as they were by the end of the season.
Exactly. And I think that, when you look at our region, Region 4B, there's a pile of teams in there, and there's, some of the teams down in our area could probably finish a little higher playing, again, some of those, schools that aren't necessarily great year after year after year. But, we ended up playing each other a lot. And so, we're going to lose some games, and you're going to finish where we need to. But like you said, it does make us better. Got a lot of valuable experience this year. And like I said, a lot of people stepped up when they had to. So, look forward to it.
Awesome, Chris. Well, I appreciate you joining us tonight. Congrats on ending this last season really strongly. I hope you have an awesome 2025 season. And Riley Dole, I know she could really pitch. I'm hoping she's just as good at pitching.
Yeah, she's great. She's been a great help for us. And, we're going to keep plugging on. Hopefully next year is our year instead of, one of those other schools.
Hey, Coach, we'll be following you, and we're going to make sure to get you back on to ensure that 30-0 record continues.
Thank you. Thanks for the jinx. I appreciate it.
No problem.
Hey, if we do lose, I'm going to take all the blame for it. I'll just put it like that.
Hey, no jinx here. Nothing but love and positivity.
Right. Well, I appreciate you guys having me on. It's been fun. And like I said, if would enjoy jumping back on some other time in the future.
Well, hey, Coach, in all sincerity, to that point, one of your players, maybe one of your rising seniors, if you want to come on with one of those players, we'd love to have that conversation.
Okay. Yeah. We definitely we got some strong seniors coming that'll be seniors next year. So, we'll talk about it, see if we can work something out.
Awesome. Cool.
Thank you, Coach.
All right. You guys take care.